North Dakota, a state with a rich history and dozens of beautiful natural landmarks. But with any place that has such a long history, ghost stories are bound to follow. Here are 5 creepy haunted places in North Dakota. In the ghost town of Tagus sits the ruins of an old Lutheran church. When it was standing, this church was rumored to be a hotbed for satanic activity. The so-called stairway to hell was supposedly under the church's foundation. If you stand near the remains of the church, it's said you can hear the screams of the souls in hell. And the stairway is not the only thing said to haunt this town. People claim to see hellhounds and glowing gravestones, as well as the curtains in old houses blowing even when there's no wind. There's also a ghost train that's been spotted, headed off to God only knows where, literally. The first recorded burial at Riverside Cemetery in Fargo was all the way back in 1878. And with so many bodies buried underneath the ground, it's no surprise there's some alleged paranormal activity here. Rumor has it that the cemetery is home to a so-called woman in white. I've talked about this phenomenon before on my channel. Women in white are pretty popular ghost stories all over the world. This one doesn't seem to have any specific legend attached, but she is said to appear on foggy nights, dressed in a Victorian-style gown and winding her way through the tombstones. Other stories include cold sensations, shadowy figures, faint organ music, orbs, and unexplained mists. People will hear footsteps behind them, but when they turn around, there's nobody there. There are also a lot of stories surrounding the cemetery's mausoleums. Guests will report phantom voices calling out near them, kicking sounds coming from inside them, and even knocking on the doors. Also known as Sandhaven State Hospital and the North Dakota Tuberculosis Sanatorium, this facility admitted its first patients all the way back in 1912. It's located in the town of Dunseith in the Turtle Mountains, possibly because the doctors thought the high altitude would be better for their patients. It later became a care facility for the developmentally disabled. It closed in 1987 after questions arose about the treatment, or rather mistreatment, of patients. Today, the site is popular with urban explorers. Reported hauntings include disembodied wails and cries, apparitions in the windows, and the sounds of crying babies. The 5th floor is said to be even more haunted than the rest, with the sound of a ghost woman crying and sobbing. The building is also said to be haunted by the ghost of a real teenager who fell to his death in an elevator shaft in the early 2000s. The sanatorium was visited by the crew of Ghost Adventures in 2016. However, it's now illegal to go inside. So if you really do want to see it, maybe you should stick to the many hours of footage already posted here on YouTube. Harvey is a town of less than 2,000 people in the north-central-ish part of the state. But this tiny town holds a big story. In 1931, Harvey resident Sophia Bentz was killed by her husband Jacob. He confessed to hitting her over the head with a hammer and burning her body in the family car. The library was later built on the site of what used to be their home, and it doesn't seem like Sophia's spirit has ever left. Library staff have reported all sorts of strange goings-on. Flickering lights from presumably brand new bulbs, empty chairs moving, books falling off the shelves on their own, orbs, phantom touches, and strange flashes of light. Books will go missing for days, then turn up later, seemingly out of thin air. Was this the work of a frazzled librarian who just misplaced them? Or is this Sophia's spirit at work? In at least one other occurrence, the library's computers powered on in the middle of the night, with only the letter S on the screen. Even if Sophia does exist, though, she appears to be a pretty harmless ghost, so the staff seem to be okay with her hanging around. Located in the capital city of Bismarck, the Liberty Memorial Building houses the North Dakota State Library, as well as a World War I memorial. Construction started in 1920, so we've got over a century's worth of history here. Rumor has it that the library is home to a ghost known as the Stack Monster. Stories of his presence, or her presence, date all the way back to the 1980s. The ghost is said to glide through passages of the building. One story involves an employee who was working late one night and had brought his dog along to work. At some point, the dog inexplicably started to growl and ran down the nearby basement stairs. A few seconds later, the dog bolted back upstairs with its tail between its legs. If you're a frequent viewer of my channel, you've probably figured out by now that I'm not exactly a dog person. Anytime a ghost story involves dogs acting strangely, I chalk it up to dogs being dogs. They tend to lose their minds at perfectly normal things all the time. However, the dog coming back from the basement with its tail between its legs and seemingly really scared, even I have to admit that's a bit strange. Other reported hauntings include disembodied footsteps, voices, and strange shadows. People will also claim to hear their name being called from empty areas. So those are all the haunted places in North Dakota I have for you today. There aren't as many crazy stories here as there are in some places, but I hope you enjoyed them all the same. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been to any of these places and experienced anything you feel was paranormal. Thanks for watching and have a creepy day.